I keep pinching myself because I sort of forget, like, when I was a kid, this is the sort of stuff I dreamed of and never thought would ever happen. And you know, the fact that we're going out there nightly, I'm playing this sort of iconic role that has only been played by very few people in the West End. You know, the show hasn't been in the West End for 20 years, and the last time it was in the West End was the original Broadway production with Lee Evans and Nathan Lane, and to sort of have ended up doing it, I sort of think, how the bloody hell has this happened? I was a massive Lee Evans fan when he was a comedian when I was younger. I used to watch all his like DVDs and stuff of his live tours, and I actually went to see it at Drury Lane when I moved to London to study at drama college, and I just remember thinking the production was ridiculous. I'd obviously seen the film because I was a big Gene Wilder fan when I was a kid from watching Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and so I was sort of introduced to his canon of work via that, and I watched the producer's original movie with Gene Wilder, and then when I went to see the musical, I was like, I forgot how bonkers it was, and you know, sort of we were slightly apprehensive doing the show now 20 years later because of a lot of the sort of risque humor in it, but actually it's a lot of it has stayed in, and we haven't changed much of the script, which has been amazing. And the fact that, you know, an audience is hungry for this sort of satire and humor is amazing. The response every night is incredible. So it's sort of Max Bialystock he's a big Broadway producer, down on his luck. He hasn't had a hit for a while, and Leo Bloom, my character, comes in to sort of do his accounts and check that he's all sort of in line with his accountancy, and realize sort of, oh, there's a bit of a loophole here. If you put on the biggest flop, you can make a lot more money. So then, with a bit of persuading from Max, Leo sort of jumps on board, and he's always had this secret desire to be a Broadway producer. He went to see shows when he was younger. He was sort of went to see Broadway shows and was sort of always in love with these MGM Hollywood movies, and yeah, so with a bit of persuasion, he joins Max, and they set out to find the worst script, the worst director, the worst cast to put on the biggest flop in history. And yeah, as you say, without spoiling any of it, it goes horribly wrong for them, and they end up making the biggest successful musical they could possibly have done. You have to be really careful about which songs get stuck in your head and you don't accidentally sing them on the tube going back home after the show. But every song in the show is a complete banger. It's you know, there's no sort of, sometimes you have a few songs in shows that you skip on the CD, but with this one I wouldn't skip any of them. I think they're all amazing, and they're all, like, considering Mel Brooks has written these, they're incredibly sort of amazing full musical numbers, and I think even though our version of the show is sort of a lot smaller than the original production and a lot more intimate, it sort of doesn't shy away from any of those sort of big show numbers that are in the show that people will expect. We're very lucky that Mel has sort of been involved in the process as well. He's 99 now, and he really wants to come and see the show, but he hasn't flown for about 3 years, I don't think. And he had he had to give us the blessing to do the show. So I originally met with Patrick Marber, the director, and sort of auditioned with him. And then he sort of said to me, he was like, "You've got the job. We just need Mel Brooks to say yes to you." So they had to put me on tape. I had to do my audition on sort of tape. I did 3 scenes, 2 songs, and they sent that off to Mel Brooks, and I had to wait for him to give me the thumbs up to play the part. And, you know, it has been played by huge sort of stars before, and it's been so nice to sort of let the production sort of do the work this time. And sort of, you know, we started in the Chocolate Factory, which was a 200-seater venue, and we couldn't fly things in, we couldn't bring things up through the floor, so we just had to rely on the material. And Mel Brooks is such a genius, and his writing is so fantastic, and there's zero sort of fat on it. You know, it's every joke sort of comes at you 100 miles an hour, and you just all have to keep up with it because they just keep coming thick and fast. And I think we were sort of, you know, we're sitting on these sort of expectations and the giants that have played these roles before us. And I think one thing we have done is we've not tried to recreate that. We've just done our version of this show and our version of these characters. And, with 20 years down the line from the original musical being produced, and 1967 was the movie was first released, and it's completely different political world now from those times. So trying to sort of do a show that is very risque and putting our own stamp on it has been such a joy, and to reinvent sort of Leo Bloom as a character and what his version of a producer is, and how do we sort of put myself into that character, which has been such an amazing thing to explore with Mel Brooks's blessing. I left Port Talbot to study in drama college when I was 18. I went to London, and it's weird because I was very fortunate that I worked fairly consistently in London and regional theatres, and it's funny because I sort of wasn't really known in Wales because I'd moved away when I was 18. I sort of hadn't come into any of the circles of Welsh theatre or Welsh TV, and then in 2019 I got to do Head of Gabler at the Sherman Theatre, which is a theatre I'd always wanted to work at. And then it was mad because then suddenly I met all these sort of Welsh creatives who were like, who are you? Where have you been? How have we never met you? And then off the back of that, I did a role in Keeping Faith in the third series of that. And I love working at home. It's, I've got a Hiri Eye sign up on my dressing room wall there, which is a sort of gentle reminder of home for me. And yeah, I'd love to work so much more back home. There's something so positive and friendly about the people that work in the industry in Wales, and it's such a supportive community. I've got lots of people that come and see my shows up in London, and it's I never worked at the Millennium Centre, and it's a dream of mine to work there at some point. I'd love to work there. Whenever you take a show into a bigger theatre in the West End from transferring it from somewhere else, it's always I hope people come to see it. But there's been a massive appetite for this show, and we've just announced that they're extending until September next year, which is amazing. And it's sort of amazing how much of a younger audience this show has found, because I think when we did it originally, it obviously had the fans of the movie, the musical, and fans, because I think lots of amateur dramatic companies have done the producers. So we found we had like these amazing sort of bus trips of people that had done it in their local amateur productions, and it's been amazing to sort of have that. But what's really been a joy is the younger audience this show has found, and sort of teaching them about satire, because I think we're in a culture where we're sort of afraid to offend or say things that you probably shouldn't say, and I think people have found, actually satire can be really powerful and funny, and also done when it's done lovingly. And there's so much love in Mel Brooks's scripts. He sort of, everyone gets offended, but it's all done with such great heart. And I think we found lots of people that know South Park, Family Guy, Book of Mormon, that have sort of gone, Mel Brooks sort of was that, like, however many years ago. So it's been amazing, the sort of new audience that this show has found. Patrick Marber, our director, he hasn't shied away from he hasn't toned any of it down. He's like, let's ramp it up, because actually then the power in sort of the world we're in at the moment politically, and sort of how certain things are being mirrored, and it does sort of take a moment where you sort of clock that, and you're like, hang on a minute, we're laughing at this, but also it's something very dark and sinister, but it's done in a very comedic, camp way in this show.